Hi. Uh, I am God's chosen, and I promised that I'd do a video here and introduce myself. My name is Greg, or Barry, whichever one you call me. I live in Oklahoma, and been here for a while. I'm actually retired, but I guess I'm going to go back and do something else. Anyhow, just don't know what yet, but I'll figure it out. Let me tell you a little bit about me. Okay, I was born back in the late 50s. I guess I was a really regular kid, I mean. I remember this about my first memories I had were like, I was still crawling, and we had this little dog. And I remember, and as I look back on it now, I thought it was kind of strange because I didn't know anything about gifts, spiritual gifts or anything like that. But I knew what this dog was. It's like he could talk to me through his mind. You know what I mean? I understood him. That may sound kind of weird. And I asked my sister. There was a sister that was a doctor tonight, and she found me. And so I spent a couple of days with her to get to know her. As we were talking, I told her about that. I said, what do you think that means? She knew it immediately. She said, you're empathic. Oh, I didn't get that. I don't know. But, because I never thought about stuff like that, But I remember we stayed kind of close to New York. My dad was in the Air Force. The dad that I knew, and things weren't quite bad, up to that point anyway. I guess they were probably in their 30s. My mom and dad were. Mom stayed at home with kids, and dad went to work. Had a dog. Dad always drove a Mercury station wagon because there were 7 kids in the family. I didn't know much more than that. I'd be a kid, catching frogs and stuff like that around. This little guy, I had a twin brother. I remember we lived in this big house. It's like, I'd love to have that house now. In Massachusetts. And if I had to say my favorite place on earth, I would have to say Massachusetts was. Even for the bad times in life, that I didn't care. The place itself is beautiful, Anyway, so there wasn't much to tell. Kindergarten, started first grade, but immediately got jerked up, and he got stationed in Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi. So that's where we went. Massachusetts schools are a lot better than Mississippi schools. But this is where I saw segregation and stuff. I was around in this is early. I remember when John F. Kennedy was shot, first grader, all these teachers started crying and stuff. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew we were going home early, My dad was on alert. I guess I didn't know it at the time, but looking back over the history, there's a Cuban Missile Crisis, you know. So all the military is ready to go. Uh, they eat funny. They don't eat like I'm used to eating. You know, they had bread pudding and stuff like that. I didn't care much for it. I remember going to school. It just the Southern people are just like that. You know, I learned how to eat grits and stuff like that. You know, I like grits. uh, I remember, we used to, like summertime and stuff like that. We had a big woods back in the back of the house. It was like really, you go back deep back there. It was almost dark, you know. Uh, and I didn't know much about snakes, but if I had been this age, I probably been scared to death because there were plenty of them in there, water moccasins and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Uh, But I remember some kid came and told us that there was a witch living back there in those woods. This is the kind of kid I was. You know. I mean, you talk about authenticity. Well, you know, if I wanted to know something, I just ask. You know. And there was this old black lady living back there in a like a little one room little house. I don't know, little cabin. I don't know what it was. But it wasn't a big house or anything. But we knocked on her door, backed off on the door, and little black lady. This is like white-headed. She'd probably seen part of the Civil War, you know. She was that old, and I asked her. I said, "Ma'am, I don't mean anything by it, but someone said there's a witch living. Are you a witch?" He's a guy, no, honey. No, of course I'm not. And I said, well, I don't know, you know. I said, you got a husband who's living out here, you know? He said, I was just talking to her, you know. And my sister's saying, you know. Then I said, well, you know, I just, you know. She said, my husband was an old sharecropper. In other words, I guess that he shared the land and grew crops on it and stuff, but I don't think he was still alive. Anyhow, that's kind of who I am, you know. If I feel like I just want to know something, sometimes I ask out of turn. You know, I don't have a filter on it. You know what I mean? But I always want the truth. You know what I mean? Because I always tell the truth. You know. Anyhow, up until then, everything had been. There was no abuse or anything like that going on. I didn't see any. You know, I know that, but I was a little different than the rest of those. I mean, I was kind of singled out. You know, and you know, I was a black sheep. You know, there's no doubt about that. Anyhow, Vietnam War was going on. You know, I think it's pretty early on in Vietnam, and of course my dad got called to it, being an Air Force guy. But you know, a lot of guys did, and I don't know. I guess he was gone for. And you know, when you're young, a year or so that they go. To me, that was a lifetime. You know, I mean, now times a year is like what 4 or 5 months used to be. You know what I mean? As a kid, time went by slow. But the older I get, the faster it goes. I've noticed that. You know, and my friends seem to notice it too. I remember when they were all crying because my dad was going away, you know. And but I didn't cry. I was like, I don't know, did I not understand what that? I didn't understand. Maybe I just didn't. Of course, I wasn't that. I didn't feel as close to them as they did, and I don't think I felt close to anybody. You know, I mean, it's just the way it was. I don't understand it. You know, I mean, but I was nice. You know, they weren't always nice to me. But, you know, I mean, it's tolerable, you know, anyway. Uh, it was in those times I was, you know, played baseball and whatnot. I wasn't any good at it. Not by then, yeah, we were still third graders or something. So, anyway, that year came out, and then he came home. Alright, and now I saw things that I didn't understand it, but I guess my mother hadn't been faithful when he was there, and he found one of the letters. Now, this shit was fixing to start. So, but I remember whenever I did see him, when he came home, I jumped out of that and then I started crying because I'd missed him. You know, nobody else did. Weird, right? And my mother sort of said I was kind of backwards, but maybe I was, you know. But that is the way I remember. I can tell you more about that. I kind of was, you know, did things differently than other people, and I'm okay with that. You know, that's the way I am. There was the problem with alcoholism then. Once that started, I mean, Dad started drinking a lot, and he can get pretty mean, you know. But we moved back to Massachusetts because once he got back, his station moved, and I guess he got his pitch at the station, so he went back up because his family was from New York, you know, Newburgh, and he had family in Massachusetts. And like I said, Massachusetts is a beautiful place. Anyway, so by then I was, I think I was fourth grade, you know, just a little kid, you know. But it seems like in courses of my life, it's like you go through these cycles or something, and there's new, it turns new, and then it was a good time for a while. But like I said, there was a problem going on in their marriage, and you could tell. I mean, it was thick, you know. So I'm busy being a kid, you know. I mean, there's lots of things to do, you know, for a kid my age, you know. There's ball to play. I started learning to play guitar, and rock and roll bands were starting to get pretty cool, and girls were starting to look good, you know. And I don't know, they thought I was cute. So, I remember something about that. A friend of mine, Team Addicts, you know, we always hung out together and go on our little adventures out there, because there were lots of woods and stuff and things to climb on, you know. You could see all kinds of wildlife and stuff like that around. And, or go do the heron runs, or there are things to do, you know. A lot better than Oklahoma. There's not much for a kid to do here. I remember one time my sister had her girlfriends and stuff. They wanted us to come and watch them have a show or something in a tent, that big tent. I thought, okay, we'll go. So we went over there. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to start kissing us. And, well, I went too into it, but, Debbie, she had jugs. She started getting jugs and stuff. And I thought, well, hey, we're boys. But we let them kiss a couple times, and then they said, well, hey, we got things to do. We got to go play ball or something, Anyway, so they got mad at us. Because we didn't want to play. Yeah, we didn't play that. And they went and told us, man. They went and told my mom. I was kissing them. I said, Mom, I don't know what they're telling us for. They caught us, and then they wanted to kiss us. We didn't want to do that. So we left. That's why they're mad. She goes, that's what I thought. I knew it was something like that. She said, let me tell you something about that. I said, they had to tell me something about it. And she said, you watch those little girls. They'll get you in a lot of trouble. Nasty little things, you. You stay away from the little girls will get you in trouble. I said, okay, Mom. But, when I played, that's kind of a funny story. Now, I did have a girlfriend, this little redhead girl, and I really liked her, and she liked me. So, one day we're walking home, and she said, my dad told me that if you want to be my boyfriend, you have to come and see him. Well, I had a paper route. I had a paper route and a TBI route. So I did that, I was trying to make money, And so I said, okay, well, I'll come over whenever I get done with my paper route. I got done with the paper route, and when I got there, my two dogs were stuck together. What were they trying to teach me, what I mean? Anyway, she goes, here, come on, I'll teach you to meet my dad. And so, Star Trek was a new show back then. Captain Kirk and all that. And, well, I tell you, I just thought that was it. But, well, I tell you what, I'd race home usually to go see that show. I think it came on every Wednesday or something like that. So, this guy was, my dad he had like 6 stripes. This guy had 3, So I knew that my dad outranked him. He said, so you want to be my daughter's boyfriend, huh? Yeah, yes, sir. He said, well, tell me, how old are you? I said, I think I was 10 years old, and she was like 9. Yeah. He goes, okay, that's a good age. And he said, you got a job? I said, yes, sir, I do. He goes, man, you're doing good, buddy. He said, and you're sitting there watching Star Trek. He said, do you watch this show? I said, oh, yes, sir. I sure do. I like that show. And he said, well, then, I'll tell you what. He said, this show is going to be on when you become older than me. Because, of course, he was probably 20-something, 30 years old, maybe. And I thought he was old. You know what I mean? Well, he said, well, I tell you what, you can be your boyfriend. You seem like a nice kid. And I said, okay. So, as I went and told her, okay, I get to be your boyfriend, but I gotta go because I'm gonna go watch Star Trek. Yeah, so I ready to watch Star Trek. Anyway, they were always all the time having these little things going on. It was a fun place to be a kid at, but meanwhile, what wasn't told, being the next kid of the family, I was the one who's going to catch all this. My dad had a lot of anger in him. And so he'd come home drunk. My mom worked at the PX. And she got home later than he did. He'd come home and we'd help cook dinner or whatever. did dishes and whatnot. But if he was drinking, he was coming after me. And I was catching hell for it. I mean, beating on me, and stuff like that. He took that shit out on me. Did I deserve it? No, I didn't. But it affected me, It did affect me. He did something else in the family that was pretty heinous too, and that my mother knew that something was going on there, but I don't think she wanted to start shit yet. He did something else that was even worse, and that ended their marriage. For all intents and purposes, their marriage was over. I thought, well, that sucks, man. I liked it here. I never did see my girlfriend again. So then it was like her sister came to drive back. And then she was going home to Oklahoma. That's where her family was. My grandmother and grandfather. They're probably sitting here with me right now, because they've been my guides on this journey. Okay. Anyhow, that was the end of my childhood, basically. But as we drove home in a station wagon, driving down the road, Mom never could drive. She just never could. She had a blowout, and that car got totaled. And surprisingly, God must have been looking, because there were 9 people in that car, and we were doing 60 miles an hour, so 70. And it rolled over 4 times, so nobody was killed. It's the only time I ever got a bruise on my body. Some of us got banged up pretty good, but everybody walked away relatively not hurt, not bad. I'm surprised, Because at that time, I knew my aunt that was with us. She said, you were always my favorite. I remember her defending me against my dad many times. He'd come being mean to me. And she'd stick up for me, and to this day that we're close. I mean, not really, because I'm busy, but she's about the only person in the family that is. There's an adopted uncle, but he's not close anymore, but we were very close a long time ago. But meanwhile, okay, so life wasn't that good, but I grew up like a teenager, stuff. I wanted to get away from there, so I decided, well, I'm going to go in the military. I remember at 16, I went to do the test and all that stuff, and I got in, but I decided, I thought I was going to go airborne, jump out of airplanes in the Army, but then I saw the Marines, and I've always, if I'm going to do something, I don't know why I do it. I pick the hardest thing to do, and but it pays. There's more pride, in it. There's more. If you're going to do something, be proud of it, and I like the way they acted. Those guys were snap and pop, so that's what I did. I went all over the pretty cool. I was at the end of the Vietnam War. Uh, anyway, that was cool. I had fun. I had fun. You know what I mean? But I remember going when I got overseas. I got initiated to. I was the Marines provide security for the Navy, you know, and on the ships and on the naval air stations and whatnot. And I went to the Naval Air Station Marine Barracks, and it took an 18-hour flight, you know, flying over oceans and stuff. And I'm thinking, well, look at that now. It's a long ways down there, and boy, we go down, we're dead. It's a long ways to fly. I remember I had to back a pot. That's the quote from the station. Had it in my sea bag. Yeah, cause wow, I smoked some pot. I mean, the pot that we smoked back then was not like it is today. I can never smoke that stuff. It's just way too strong. You know, I mean, I don't mind anybody who does. You know, it's legal. You know, but back then it wasn't, and it certainly wasn't when you're in the military. But anyway, they kept running dogs through our bags. You know, like dog sniff, dog sniffing dogs. One guy got tagged, but it was because he had a sandwich. So, but they walked right past my pot. Yeah. I actually made it there. I made it there with the bag, but I was so scared. I mean, it scared me so much because when I remember I said, I've got $15 in this bag. I thought, oh yeah. Okay, I sold to him. You know, I didn't smoke any of it. Of course, back then, you know, when it costed $10, you know. Of course, they had more weed over there. So, yeah. Anyway, I was always kind of a rebel like that. You know, I didn't do anything really serious or anything. You know, it wasn't mean or anything like that. But they gave me a top secret clearance. I had to because we had nuclear weapons over there. That's a pretty big deal because I guess least they had on that land was to never have nuclear weapons on any of that land, you know. But of course, the American government, you know, I mean, it's an American Navy. Well, of course they have to have that shit, you know. I mean, they built them right there where I was at. That's them do it. Well, anyway, sometimes we'd have to go into a step-up, you know, and they'd sit me in this. Me and another guy named Perdeau, we were the only ones who could go in this top secret little deal, you know. There were only a few officers that even had the clearance to go in there or look in there. And, you know, I was kind of a nice guy. Hey, listen, I didn't want to hit anybody or anything, you know. And I remember we had this real hard charging kind of lieutenant. I mean, he's built like a brick shit house, you know. He said, Griffin? He started looking around. And I opened up the little deal, you know. He started looking. I said, he said, you can't be doing that. He said, what are you going to do about it? And I remember breaking his nose because I slammed metal. Hey, you see something? That's what you do. God damn, Griffin. He said, that's the way you do it. You know, he wanted me to be mean or something. You know, be a Marine, kill somebody. You know. Hey, listen, you're on my team. I don't want to be killing you. You know, but I didn't get in trouble for it. In fact, he said, "Good job." He broke his nose. Yeah, that's pretty wild. But I mean, we were in like a triple canopy jungle, you know, and man, I tell you what, you have to hack yourself through that. I mean, one time when they stole one of them little baby monkeys from they had monkeys all over the place, you know. Uh, they stole one, a little baby. Decided they're going to make it our mascot. The monkeys wouldn't have that. So we got this little monkey and she's like, eh. I guess they could hear that, and they think it was miles away from where you took it. And it wasn't too long before those monkeys found that guardhouse. And we opened up the door, and here they were sitting, a bunch of big old monkeys. They got teeth, like big teeth, you know. I said, well, it might be kind of might be kind of time for y'all guys to give that monkey back. Anyway, yeah, I gave the monkey back. So I watch. Sometimes I'll sit down on Facebook and watch these little monkeys, you know. The monkeys there, hey, them big old mountain monkeys. We call them brass balls because they had balls hanging down his knees and shit, you know. Hey, this guy. Hey, you couldn't turn your back on him. Anyway, so that went by, and then I got back out this service. I was in there for like 6 years. Yeah, I got back out, and then I decided I was going to go to school or something. I got married to this girl. Prettiest thing. But pretty doesn't make the best wife. You know. She did a lot of drugs, and you know, me at that point, I didn't do any drugs, but you get around those people and you're gonna do them, and so I did. That was a lesson to be learned. Well, we got pretty deep into it. I made money out of it, you know. Shit, I got a lot of money out of it, but I also got a monkey on my back, and that wasn't good. Anyway, so finally I got so fed up with it. I told her, I said, "Listen, you're not gonna. I know you can't handle this." But, so I was doing heroin, and I said, "I can't do this. I'm not gonna do this anymore. I got to do something with this. So I'm gonna put you somewhere so I don't have to deal with you. You're gonna go and get stuff cleaned up for 7 days, and whatever you're gonna do with that, it's up to you. But I'm gonna hack this. I'm getting off this shit." And I did it. You know, it took me about 5 days to kick that shit. But let me tell you what, because I remember I never saw a sunny day. You know, it was like the sun could be shining, but I wouldn't see it. It's like all I cared about was getting messed up on dope. And then there was sex drive. That stuff wipes your sex drive out. Now, I see today these kids doing fentanyl, and heroin was strong enough. I mean, you nodded on it and stuff. But I should do some dope and lift weights, you know. But like I said, I wouldn't cut out to be a doper like that. What is that? Like I said, I never saw a sunny day. It's just like there was no joy. It just took away my joy. And for those of you who never did and don't ever, you know, the worst thing I ever did, really, and I didn't really ever do any real crimes except for do something to do with dope. Now I got charged with all kinds of drugs, you know, and come to find out, I have a sister that was involved with doing all that shit, getting me charged with all kinds of heinous crimes. I wasn't guilty, you know. They've been giving me help for a long time, and I don't even know why. I really don't. I mean, these people are I don't want to talk too bad. I'm not going to talk too bad about it. But I can tell you now that they haven't been nice people. Been pretty bad. And I was the object of their affections. That's to say. Anyway, I did get off the shit. Not that I did other drugs, but I never did it to the point where it messed me up real bad. You know what I mean? I'd busted my foot up, you know, when I was in service, and it kind of grew back, kind of formed. So I went in there because I couldn't hardly wear a shoe anymore. So I told them, I said, we need to fix this. So they take me in the operating room and stuff. And they take a bunch of bones and stuff out of my feet. You know, left it wide open. In fact, they even put rubber gloves to it to keep it open. They sent me home for like 3 weeks. I thought, man, you don't have any antibiotics or anything looked like that. Well, by the time 2 weeks came around, I lived in these apartments, and this manager hated me for some reason. I don't know. I guess she thought I was on drugs or something. And but she was just real hateful, and they would like gang stalk you and stuff like that. And I remember when she started giving me a hard time. I said, kiss my ass, man. I walked out. Next thing I know, I'm sleeping. And I get woke up. The cops knocking on the door, and there's a messed up leg, you know. And they said, "Did you really tell the manager that you were gonna blow up apartments?" I said, "What?" That's what I mean. See, there are some evil people in this state, and they think it's fair. So they figure they'll put you in jail for anything, because guess what? If you're doing anything wrong with it, it's okay. You know. And I said, no, I didn't do that. Do I look like I could do that? And I remember the cop looked at my leg and he said, "You're going to lose that leg, pal." I said, "Yeah, I know. It's that way." Because it was like real swelled up. I mean, it was like the skin was so taut on it, it was real shiny. It was pretty bad. And gangrene and stuff. But I said, "Where'd you go?" I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't want to go in there because I was afraid they would chop it off. And I remember Vietnam veterans are kind of a different breed, you know. We that's the way we coped. We did drugs and stuff like that, you know. And the Veterans Administration knew that, and they didn't give us much of a hard time about it. But boy, the boys in state deals, they did. You know. I remember he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I won't take you to jail if you'll let me take you to the hospital." Well, didn't not much of a choice there. I guess. Okay, I guess I go to the hospital. And there was this nurse, I remember, and I'd taken all this shit from these people, you know, that day. I thought, damn. You know, I was not in the mood anymore that day for taking any more shit. And there was this nurse who, I mean, I've seen her since she retired. She'd still go up there and volunteer. She's a real nice lady. And she said, "Mr. Griffin, listen to me. You're safe now." And now I just busted out crying, you know, because that's what it was. You know, you don't feel safe. You know, you can just feel like the whole world's getting against you, and I've been like that, and I've been like that forever. I've gotten to where I'm used to it because people don't understand me. I mean, if they did, they'd know I don't mean anybody any harm. I love people, you know. I love mankind, and it's the reason why I'm here. Uh, I came here to help. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about the spiritual realm and how things work and life and death and whatnot, we're not all from this planet. I mean, we come from different star systems, but God needs us. We're here. And the way I understand it, now, the last life I had was like I was shot. I was shot and killed. I was a slave to one of my ops, who is an op now, at least their family. I remember when this first started, she actually petitioned God. They wanted to get me back. That, hey, I belong to them. I'm like, I guess God had sent me back almost very quickly, and they don't generally do that. I guess I've been here very many times. I'm an ancient soul, you know, and but I'm here for a reason and there's only one. The way God said, He said, there's only one of you here. I mean, there's nobody else like me here. Because our vibration stuff, it runs a little higher than humans, and that's needed. That's needed right now to help heal the earth and help man evolve through this thing, because this thing's going to get done whether we like it or not. You know, so that's why I'm here. And I, you know, listen, whenever, when I was a little kid, you know, just a little guy, you know, I can remember thinking about God. I knew that there was a God. With everything in me, I knew it, and I can tell you now that when I saw Him finally, in my mind as a little kid, it looked pretty much the same. So I guess when they wipe your mind clean, because you get your mind wiped when you come through, if you reincarnate. You don't get to come through with all of your knowledge. I mean, I guess you could, you know, but for this deal it happened because I guess I did something as a child that made people be able to realize who I was, and something happened to wipe that all off me, and that's why it's been a real struggle to try to remember what I needed to remember. Anyway, I know that people, they didn't understand me well, you know, through my life, and there would be times I just didn't want to put up with it, you know. I mean, there are things I wish I had done as a child, as a kid, and learned some of these things, but I was kind of rebellious on that, you know. Of course, I think I quit school at about 10th grade. I wasn't going anywhere. I was working, you know. But when I went in the military, I had a first sergeant who said, if you don't have a high school diploma, you're going to have one by the time you leave here. So I had to go to night school, but I went to Del City High School until I quit. So they were able to get my transcripts, and I actually graduated from that high school the same year I was supposed to, and I was had already been overseas in the Marine Corps. That was an accomplishment because I had to go at nighttime. But those ladies that taught me and stuff, I mean, those were some very nice ladies, and I appreciate the hell out of them for doing that. I mean, they worked overtime to get me through it because I was just about ready to rotate. And they said, "Please don't do that." I said, "I was ready to cat, fuck it, but I didn't because the ladies they worked too hard at it. So I said, all right, I'm gonna stick it out. I held right there late at nights and got it done. And so when I got out, I was able to go to college. You know, but I didn't go to college for what I wanted to go to. Because some jerk that was in Veterans Administration was actually in that bombing that they bombed on Oklahoma City. I remember I was driving. I'd been lost. I worked for a corporation, and actually I did real well there. But I remember it was like getting around Christmas time and stuff, and I had guys who had kids and whatnot. And I was having to send them home early because there wasn't any cars in the bays. And so I called up the corporate in California. I said, who's in charge of marketing? And they said, no, we'll get them. I said, I'm one of the managers out here at the shop. Okay, hold on a minute. And so I was kind of, I didn't care much for big wigs and stuff like that, I asked him, I said, "Sir, what is it that you do?" He said, well, I'm vice president of marketing. I said, marketing? Isn't that where you drum up business and make the money, so we make money? He said, yes, that's what you got. You're doing a hell of a job. Why am I sending my guys home early? Because I don't have any cars in these bays. What are we going to do about it? Because I really am not. I mean, they need to be working. They've got kids. And then that's important to me. Because when I raise my kids, I'll tell you something. When I was just working, screwing around, I could screw around, but when I was raising those kids, I was being good. I was a good dad, and I was a good husband. I never did have a time when I didn't have enough to take care of my family. I prayed to God for that. I asked Him, bless the work of my hands and give me enough to take care of my family, and He did. I mean, God and I have always been. I know that usually He always heard me, and I have faith in that. I screwed up sometimes, but I mean, that was a time when I got rid of the first wife, and I was all messed up. I was doing drugs heavy and doing some stupid shit. And there was a woman I knew that she always liked me. I could tell. She liked me a lot. And she asked me to come over. And I didn't know what to do because I didn't know should I be with her or not. Well, anyway, she convinced me to listen. Let's get you right. Let's clean up your act, pal. You have a lot more in you than this. Yeah, I do. And believe it or not, I was married to that woman for 14 years, and I accomplished a lot better than I thought I would. But then she got cancer, and we had to bury her. And that was a very sad time to me. I mean, uh, you have people in your life who will come to your life, and it's like they're kind of like saviors to you, you know what I mean? Uh, and that's kind of the way I looked at her. Uh, I imagine I'll see her again, you know, maybe back up there. But since then, I can't say as I really have been in love anymore. Not in it, be with them, you know what I mean? I mean, I've got a couple women that I kind of look at. I'm kind of looking at, but I can tell you now that, and I'll say it right there out loud, I don't have any intention of going back to where I came from in this deal. I don't see anybody in that bunch, and even though some of them are actually family members, really, I mean, well, I just don't see any way to rectify what they've done, the things that they've done. Can they be forgiven? Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to hold up to forgiveness. If God wants to forgive them, I'll forgive them. But it doesn't mean I have to be living with them, or I don't have to be around them, because I'm just like, when you do that much to somebody, I draw a line somewhere. You know, I just have to. Anyhow, where was I? Kind of rambling on there. But anyhow, let me tell you about this thing. Okay, so, like I said, I remember, and God has a strange way of doing things. I mean, it's not the way I would want it done, to want to do it in my life, but sometimes it is the best way that He does it. I mean, I would have done it a little softer, you know. But sometimes He'll take you on a road that you wouldn't have seen. You wouldn't have chosen it. You wouldn't have seen that road. He's got the way to do it. But I remember I was there for a while. I got pretty messed up, but I straightened it up, and I was with this woman and everything. And I was concerned because now that first wife, she was still cooking hard on heroin, and but she had my son. I have a son who was he was only a little guy, you know. And I was very concerned about that. I mean, I took care of business, you know, on it. But one night I came in there, and knocked on the door over there, and came in, and there were a bunch of people shooting up, and my kid was there. So I picked him up. I said, "Hey, kid's there with me." But you just can't take it. I said, "I bet. Call the cops. Go ahead." I said, she didn't fight me on it. You know. Now, that didn't mean I had custody or anything. I just didn't want to be around. You know, listen, that couldn't be good. You know, I said, no way. I just took him and left him. And but no, I had all through those drug days, the drug life, I was screwing up and irresponsible for whatever reason. But my license was suspended. I worked at a place where I had to drive. And I was driving home. I remember I was driving home at lunchtime, because I'd have like a 2-hour lunch. And I was going home to check on the kids, you know, make sure they were all right. And I got pulled over by Highway Patrol. Well, after a while, I got sick of that, get me for that, being licensed suspended and whatnot, you know. So I went to Texas and got a Texas license. Now, I had never had a felony or anything like that, and this wasn't a felony either. I'd never been to jail either. Well, I've been to jail for some little bullshit, little patient, a couple of days, but city jail. But I've never been county jail. Anyway, uh, so this highway patrol, I mean, he's really mean to me. He actually like, man, I shot his mother or something because, well, he was just really pissed off because I had a Texas license under a suspended license, and he stuck me like, but now remember, God's with me. God's looking after me right now, and I'm going through this shit. But this is why God will clean you up, and He's cleaning me up. Now I worked down there by the courthouse, and a lot of those people would come in, and their cars were there, stuff. And so I got to know some of them, lawyers and stuff like that. And so I went to jail. I remember, and so I was in city jail. But first I went to county, and they sent me straight to go over to the city jail to sit some tickets or something, or back tickets on me. So I was over there waiting, doing the time, the tickets and stuff. And they made me a trustee, and that's cool because you got a further investment that way. But that's about 2 days later. They said, "Hey Griffin, you got to go back over to county." I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, they forgot the OR. They forgot to put you through arraignment like that." So, oh, well, you gonna let me come back and be a trustee again? I don't know. Let's see what happens. So I went over there, and it didn't take very long from the arraignment. The OR guy came in and had me sign something. He said, "Okay, you're all right. Okay, you can take him now. You can do what you got to do with him." And so I sat there all day waiting on this bench to go back to city jail to set the rest of those tickets out. Now I remember that my best friend's sister had become like a jailer over there. And me and my best friend give her a hard time because she was like us as kids. We grew up together. And this is her cop. I said, "Well, he's gonna be a cop." You give us some free food or something like free food, give us cigarettes and shit? No, she wouldn't do it. And I saw her not long ago because a friend of ours died, and I was at the funeral. And she like me, she didn't age much, Anyway, but they were good people, I mean, because my best friend, he's a mess. Now listen, I'll explain this in a minute. But now, okay, so I'm getting cleaned up here because now it's about 10 o'clock at night, and this jailer hollers at me. He said, "Hey, Griffin, guess what? What? It's your lucky day. City Director Holds going home." Wow, cool. Now, remember the story now. Keep up the story. Okay, so I called my wife, and I said, "Hey, come get me, man. I'm out of here." And so I went home, and I knew I'd have to fix my license because I had to have my license to work. But they were cool with it. They said, "Listen, just get back here as quick as you can, get the thing taken care of." So I kind of celebrated getting out. I had like a couple joints, and now, like I said, the pot that we smoked was not like the pot it is now. I can't smoke that shit. It was just too strong. Make you cough too much. There is such thing as too strong. But I got one of them joints. I said, I'm celebrating, because I didn't drink. Anyway, I smoked that. I'm at probably half that joint. So I went to sleep, and I think I woke up about 9 o'clock. I was getting a phone call, and I remember they called me. They said, "Is it Barry Griffin?" I said, "Yeah, it is." They said, "This is Al Rankin from the Child Division, Child Welfare Division, and we want you to come down here and get your kid." And I remember I had been praying about this kid, And I wanted to make sure, because whenever I went to jail, of course, the kid went back to his mother. And I said, really? Cool. I told him, I didn't just let anything bury you. It's cool. I said, well, I went down there. And the first thing I see when I got off this elevator was my first wife, ex-wife, you know. I had seen her boyfriend that she lived with in the jail. And he told me that, man. I said, what are you doing in here? Well, no, yeah, don't worry about it. But listen, I'm going to tell you something. I want you to get your kid. I want you to get your kid because you really need to get him out of there. Said, well, that's the plan. And I'm busy preaching God and stuff. And this. I remember the jailers would listen to me on the intercom. I said, Griffin, shut up. Because I'm keeping people awake. And but then I got to be president trustee, you know. So anyway, so I get dressed real fast, and I see my first wife, and she is like she couldn't bear her teeth because her mouth was actually wired shut, like someone had busted her hard. And I said, what's the matter with you? Why have you been mad at me? What's going on here? You know, I didn't know anything about it. I said, motherfucker. And like I was, like I'd done something to her, or been mean to her, and I hadn't been. I said, okay. I don't know. What happened to you? Look at you, man. Shit. Anyway. Eat a fruit to a straw, you know. I don't know. I can tell you what it was, but at that point, I'm dumbfounded. I didn't know what any of this was about. I hadn't brought any kind of action against her or anything. So I was told to go to this courtroom in here, and there was now the Child Welfare Division in Oklahoma is the lowest court in the land, okay? And they really don't have the right to overturn divorce decrees, like kids involved and stuff like that. And they really couldn't do anything about that unless there was a hefty case or something, you know, had done what happened here. Is she was in trouble for neglect and whatnot, like that. Now, I wasn't in trouble for anything. But so as soon as I walked in that courtroom, and there she was, she goes, I can't believe you let this guy try to take my kid. Man, he takes every drug in the world. Like, I said, what? What are you talking? Why would you say something like that? And so I said, Your Honor, that isn't true. I said, listen, I'll tell you what. I'll match your piss test right now. And judge like that. I said, Miss Griffin, will you do that? And she said, fuck you. And she walks out of the courtroom. I mean, not even dismissed. She just walks out. I said, and she said, Mr. Griffin, will you still give that your analysis? I said, yeah, I'll do it. I didn't even think about that little bit of pot I smoked. I was clean. You know, I was taking drugs. But I did smoke that little joint. And pot wasn't legal. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal, but it wasn't legal. So it came back and it said, well, it looks like you got a little bit of pot in your deal, and so we can't release the child to you. And we'll get you a lawyer. I said, give me a lawyer. Yeah, you're gonna need a lawyer. Okay. So as it went down, I did get my lessons fixed. I went back to work, and I had to go through all this rigorous stuff to prove that I was fit to be a parent. Now, what had actually happened was that they had been drinking, her and her boyfriend, and my first wife was a real bitch. And I guess she probably baited him in something and so she would get pissed off. She walked out of there with a hammer and busted every one of the windows out of a Suburban. Well, we saw that because he busted every busted that jaw, you know. And of course, police got called and they took my son to child welfare, and her dad had been called, and he is the one who started the action against her. Anyway, now because she was like that, I was real. He was kind of an asshole, but someone needed to fucking do that, but still, he was an asshole because she turned out the way she was because of her parents who were never there. She was raised by grandparents. I said, you're gonna raise my kid? No way. So the fight was on. I had to fight in court to have my kid. And I remember going to this lawyer and saying, well, you know, and I hadn't been clean a few years, and you know, when you're in that stage, you just, you know, you kind of, you know, you could fall easily, you know, and I was doing well enough. I didn't want to go there. I was trying to do right, and so like I said, had to go, and they really liked my wife. I mean, they had second. No, not the guy that called me. He was in my corner, but this woman, she wasn't. I don't know about you, but you know, she didn't get any bad reports on me or anything. You know, some people. I've had to deal with that. You know, all my life it's kind of like, I don't know about you. You ain't from around here, are you? You know, it's kind of like that. And I guess I am kind of different, you know. But I wear that difference like a crown. I'm happy to be. If that's what that family is about, I'm glad to be the black sheep. I'm proud to be that because I'd rather be that way, you know. So anyway, in the end, I said, Patty, you can't win. You can't win here. We know, right? But I didn't want your dad to raise my kid. So I'll talk to Rankin and see if she'll drop the charges on you if you'll sign that kid over. And so I don't have to fight with your dad because he's a little bit too strong. I'm afraid that we'll lose. And she said, yeah, I agree. Let's do that. And she signed him over to me. And the agreement went down, and that cut Grandpa out of it. You know, and to keep our kid in our... Now, I raised him by myself because when Carolyn died, there was just me and Barry. You know, and her kids went to her grandmother. So, we got them raised. We did. Me and Barry faced the world. And we got through it. You know. But I moved to Ponca City, and I remember those people. I mean, I was amazed at, you know, in Oklahoma City, these people weren't about shit, you know, really. They were kind of assholes, and I never really got a good break there, but when I went to Ponca City, these people rolled out the red carpet for me because I had a kid, and I was raising by myself. That was kind of unheard of at that time. I mean, most guys were they were the parent that was around, and women raised the kids, but I mean, they actually did a thing in the papers, in the newspaper about me. You know, well, 'cause we came in and we started from nothing, and I got like the best job I could get there, you know, and I did pretty good. So did he, you know. I remember he had a teacher that was really good looking, but she was so sweet, and you know, she was so kind to him, and you know, kept him in school long enough to get him graduated and stuff. And if I had to give the credit to anybody, I would give it to her. You know. So there are a lot of good people. You know. And that's what I'll say this, because now we're going to get into where God steps into the game. All of those, God cleaned me up. All those tickets got wiped out, and I got my kid. I paid off all my child support that I hadn't paid yet. You know, and it wasn't all that big, but and there were times where we struggled. You know, I mean, to make ends meet, but we did it. You know, and we always made it. You know. I remember the first people I met was a girl named Rhonda. She was really pretty. And she comes to my house and knocks on the door. I got an apartment there, you know, like a low-income apartment and stuff. And she goes, Greg, she worked where I did. And she said, I'm going to take you out and we're going to get you to meet everybody. Now, all we do here in Ponca City is party and breed. Okay. Well, that was like one day. But that is, you know, that's the way they were there. That is pretty cool. They were all right people. You know, they were good people. I mean, you know, they're country people. You know. And I always got along better with these old country folk than I did these city people. Just now back in the old days, Oklahoma was kind of wild, kind of weird. But I mean, I remember seeing them bring in all these, build all these big highways and stuff. But I don't know, we had sold a Dodge, like a 40-something Dodge. That was one my buddies got. We took it out there and drove it in the mud and stuff. And we got stuck. And I remember, this is the typical Okie, old kind of fat kind of guy, and he had a flatbed Ford the big truck. You know, he had a couple dead cows on the back of it, and he had a straw hat. And he said, well, yes, joint tobacco. Looked like I got so stuck, buddy. Yeah, we did. He said, well, you know, I said, you know, spitting in it. And we had a couple of girls with us. We were ditching school, you know. He goes, aren't you kids supposed to be in school? Well, yeah, but we figured it was pretty close to being out. So we took a day off. And, well, okay, well, I guess we're ready to get you out of that hole. So he goes over, he has a fucking winch on there and pulls us right out. I remember those cows. There's that cable going across there and opening them up, you know. But that's the way Okies were back then. You didn't go break down somewhere that someone didn't stop to help you. Then in about the 80s, and Detroit started falling like that, you know, that. And the jobs got kind of scarce up there. Well, guess what? They ran down there. And so we got a lot of people that became transplanted there, and it was a different breed. Listen, it's not as friendly as it used to be. It's not as country as it used to be. And it's gotten like a city, you know. It's sad, kind of, really. I mean, because people, when in small town, they get to know you. I mean, yeah, they'll talk shit, they'll talk about you, the gossip and whatnot, but they know you, and if you're a good person, you know, even though they may gossip about you sometimes, they really don't mean any harm. You know, they're just like that. I can deal with those people. What I can't deal is kind of shit that goes on around here. Well, if some of you probably heard some of the stories they were talking about me, and I didn't do anything with these people, you know. The only thing I did was, I'm going to tell you the story. This is where God comes in. Now, I wasn't doing anything really bad or anything, but I had this friend who was, her name was Ruth, but she was married, and I liked her a lot. I mean, we'd talk for hours on the phone, and laugh and cut up and whatnot. And I always thought there was nothing wrong with her. I mean, if she hadn't been married, I would have gone out with her, But, of course, she had, you know, I don't know, I met her on some dating app or something like that, and we got to talking, and I remember she didn't really introduce. I said, don't you think that we got at least a little pump here and say, what's your name? My name's Greg. What's yours? Because we just started talking. I was saying that to her. Anyhow, that's where it started. Now that was let's see, what year was that? Probably about probably 10 years ago, or no, it was more than 10 years ago. It was probably more than 10 years ago that I met her. Anyway, so, and I lived out in Oklahoma City, or near Packentown. I'd been out in Oregon because I don't know. I just needed to get away from Oklahoma. And why I never came back, I'll never know. But there wasn't nothing going on in my life, and I needed to get off the shit, So I said, "Hey, can I come up there?" He goes, "Yeah, I need you to come up here, man. I got something to take to look after my old lady while I'm out in the road because he was driving a truck." And we used to actually get along, So I went up there, but she was a nut, and I paid to be there, that. But she sometimes come in my room, start hitting on me, and hitting me. Say, hey, chick, get back. You get down there now, I'll bop you, now. Get your butt out of here, And the only friend I had really was his dog, Anyway, that happened too many times, and I said, "That's not. I'm gonna go. Get the fuck out of here." I can't do that. He got mad about it. Too bad. Something weird happened. I remember one day I felt real lucky. I don't know why. I felt lucky. I just did. So I said, "I'm gonna go down to the store and get some lottery tickets." I just felt lucky. I don't know. And it was a rainy day, kind of. And I went down, on the sidewalk, and there was a car at the deal, and I went to cross the crosswalk. And he was looking off that way. And I was coming from this way. And about the time I got in front of his car, he gunned it. He's trying to get across that highway. Well, guess what? I left a big old dent in his car, and bicycle that I was on was ruined. It was brand new. And now I'm missing a leg. I have a prosthetic leg on the lower part of my leg, and that was too bent to walk on. Next thing I know, I got people all over me. "Oh, stay there, don't move." Anyway, now you talk about falling in a bucket of shit and come out smelling like a rose. I didn't get the lottery tickets, but I did get $50,000 for getting hit by the car, and I was, didn't have to pay for any of the medical care because I was a veteran, and we just went over the domiciliary over there, and so all I had to do was go to the gym in there, and really I just pumped weights and shit like that, and got right. And by the time I did, boy, I was like, most women would look at that picture and say, "Whoa, look at that dude, pretty buff." Anyway, so I stayed there for a while to the case, and I didn't have a lawyer. I did the case myself. I mean, there's not a whole lot. When you take them, they act like they do so much, but the truth of the matter is that it's just a lot of paperwork. you know, you're gonna be a lawyer to do that. So anyway, I didn't split my money down with anybody. I just kept it and got a lot done with it. So I came back to Oklahoma, and I had buddies here and stuff. I had a friend of mine go get me an apartment before I got here, so when I got here, I had someplace to go because I don't do motels well. But like I said, I wasn't doing a whole lot, and I met this girl. She drove a truck, and was she who I'd rather would go out with? No, not really. But like I said, I wasn't doing shit, and she told me, "I've got this whole house out here, and do you want to come out and look at it and see what you want to do, what you can do with it?" Then I sure welcome it, and we mess around and stuff like that. It's just fun, I mean, like I said, I didn't have much to do, and so she was on the road like every day, and except for 4 days a month, she'd come in, and of course I was there working. We'd have fun, and just go back out on the road. And it worked for a while. But then I caught wind of her. She was messing around with somebody. I don't know who it was. And the way the climate is out there, and the things that are going around, it's not like I know who I'm going to be with. I mean, it's just there's too many things out there that you can't. You know what I mean? And but while I was out there, I had to do a lot of work on that house, and there was a yard that was, oh my God, and what I did with that place was a miracle job, and it was supposed to be mine. Well, she started getting all weird and stuff, acting shitty and everything, and picking fights and stuff, and called cops on me once I busted my glasses, hit me. And I knew it was time to go, and I got from God that it was time to go and get out of there, because what I didn't know at that time was I was an earth angel. Nobody told me about all that stuff, and they told me who I was. I didn't know. To me, it was just a guy. So I thought that's best. I think it's time for me to go. But I still went out there and kind of looked at because I'd done so much on that place out there, and I still looked at the yard and stuff and made sure it got done. And I started noticing that she was like, I don't know what happened to her, man. So I'd come home, and I'd come over there and knock on the door and walk in there, and she was a mess. I mean, I figured if I didn't do something, she was going to die. And I cared enough about her. I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to see her like that. I felt like she'd had some kind of an aneurysm or a stroke or something like that. And I was right. She had some kind of a deal. So I called her family, and I said, "Listen, I don't know what to do here, but I'm coming over here, and I live over in Oklahoma City now, and she lives here, but I don't see her taking care of herself here." Um, so I'm gonna need a little help here. So, uh, I remember when I called we got 211 that you can get information. I remember talking to that guy, and I said, I remember crying. It made me cry to think about it because I'd been with this girl for about 3 years before prior to that, so I loved her in some degree. I never thought that it was going to go to distance. I did at one point ask her to marry me, but she said no. I said, oh, okay, well, I didn't hurt my feelings. I said, okay, fine. I'll never ask again, though. You lost that. Yeah. Anyway, so, and I remember, I should have seen this. I have a twin brother, and we went over there for Thanksgiving. And she was telling me how I hangover with him still the whole time, and got shitty with me when we were leaving. And I thought, what is your problem, dude? Looking back on it now, I know. Those were two shady little shits. They were up to no good. Because, she wasn't even in my league. Not even near it. I don't treat people like that, but you know. You know, you know. You know. Uh, so anyway, I went on. She's going to the house sometimes, and she's acting goofy, and she kept on fucking losing her truck. Called me up, and we couldn't find her truck. And she get impounded. I don't know what she was doing. Damn, what are you on, man? I said, I can't keep coming out here and driving. We got the country, way out the country, got pulled over in Edmond, and it was crazy. What the hell are you doing, man? What's up with you? And she almost got popped. Had some pot or something in her purse. I said, come on, girl, don't get me into this kind of shit. Anyway, and I tried to stick it out with her as long as I could, and finally I said, no, I can't do this anymore. I was having to pick up a truck, and I was wanting to have to pay for it, and I didn't need to do that shit. Listen. So, when I saw the way she was conducting her life and doing it, something had to be wrong. So, well, anyhow, so I called the ambulance. I had them pick her up. Go in there, and if you deem that she needs to go to the hospital, then because she's living now, so I'll come up there. Well, they didn't call me, and so finally I called them. I said, can you tell me what happened? I was the guy that called about the woman over there on 4th Street. I said, oh, yeah. Well, we're not supposed to tell you, but I guess I will. Well, we took her to the hospital over in Guthrie. I said, okay. Okay, well, I'll go look in on it there. So I went over there, and they cleaned her up and stuff right now. She was real close. They were really glad to see me. She didn't know what was going to happen to her. So I remember laying there on the bed with her, letting her, holding her a little bit, trying to be kind to her, because I don't know what was wrong with her. I said, doctor, did you happen to look at her, find out what's, because that's not the Carol I know. There's something missing here. He goes, yeah, we did. We looked at it, and there seems to be some kind of spot on the brain. We can't tell if it's a full-blown stroke or aneurysm or what, but there was something occurred in the brain. So that's what I thought. So you can't tell people, Anyway, so then her daughter, I called, and her daughter, she's gone all that life and never really. I guess she left her daughter with her sister, and they raised them, and she just made money and give to them. I don't understand that. Those are things I didn't know until then. I thought, why? And she got a dishonorable discharge out of the army. What the hell did y'all do? You know how hard it is to get a dishonorable discharge? It takes a lot of work. I don't know what they had been doing. Anyway, so for all intents and purposes, as far as I was concerned, it was over. And but she came up and they did what they had to do to get her in a place like a nursing home, because, like I said, it was too much. I couldn't have done that and lived my life. But I didn't leave her just like that. I'd go over there every day. I'd bring her like a milkshake or something. I mean, she was being taken care of. Brought her a wheelchair and stuff so she can get around. One night her sister calls me and tells me that she got a weird call that she got called from this hospital in Oklahoma City when her sister was there and she didn't have a ride home. But maybe I thought, well, I could call up there and tell them to go make sure to go get her. But I thought, that ain't a big deal. I ain't doing nothing. I'll go get her. And the way her face just lit up, And so I said, well, come on, go home with me for a while. So we sat there, and it wasn't to get her, better. It was like we just hung out, and then I said, well, here, let me get you a place to sleep here. And you can sleep by me. And so she did, There wasn't no hanky-panky going on. I just, I knew. I just felt bad for her, that she was hurt like that, Anyway, the next morning, I get a knock on the door. That's the police. I said, yeah, what's going on? Is Carol here? I said, well, yes, she is. She was left at the hospital last night, and I picked her up. And she said she wanted to come home here, and I did. I let her. Here's, well, don't do that again. I'm not. I don't be bossing around being mad about it, but her sister's got some kind of an order on it, so she can't just go wandering. Oh. And she got kind of pissed off. I said, but listen, I looked after her for several years, and she was in safe hands, But okay, And, they wouldn't let me go and see her ever again. And I thought that was just as shitty as it could be. There's some people, and all they cared about was they wanted to get that land in that house out there. That's all they cared about. And I guess she hooked up with... Now, these people knew me. They didn't know Carol. They didn't know any of my family. And this chick, this Ruth, had gotten in my phone book and whatnot, and started calling around and getting people from my life and turning them against me, and so they could run this big deal. And they were like, and it was all about stealing money and stealing properties. And they found the two sorriest pieces in my family, and another one that I didn't think was that way, but now I know she ain't as good as I thought she was, along with other people that I didn't know. It's a coven. Okay, now one night, let's think this. One night during this time, I would, I was usually alone, so I was usually just that chair right over there. I'd lean back and I'd fall asleep in that chair, pretty much the going deal every night, Uh, One night I heard a name. I can't remember it was my name, but I heard a name. And here's the weird thing about it. This is really wild. You know, you wonder if God ever talked to you or called your name. You know, like whenever Samuel was a boy and God came to me, he said, Samuel. God, yeah, I'm here. You know, that's exactly what I did. I said, God? I just knew who it was. I just knew it. You know, I don't know who knew it. And he said, yeah. I said, I'm here. I don't know why I knew that. I don't know why I said that. Why I just knew. You just know. You know what I mean? Could have been a burglar, could have been anybody, but no. I knew it wasn't. I knew it was God. He said, I want you to go on a journey with me. And my response to that was, well, God, I guess I belong to you. I guess if you ask me to go on a journey, I'll go on a journey with you. It's good. And so he told me, it was wild, because I would tell you what he looked like. And most people would wonder what you would see. And I didn't know if this was God or was this Jesus. You know what I mean? But I felt like it was God. And he said, I'll be back tomorrow to talk with you. I have to go and talk to your other half, your counterpart. I said, okay. But it tripped me out, man. It's like, whoa. Man, is that real? Did that really just happen? You know? Because, I mean, now as a little boy, I remember, I knew there was a God. And I remember going up to that altar and I knew. I just knew it. But after all of my life had gone by, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure there was God. I wasn't completely sure about it anymore. But here I just met him. What he was wearing, he had hair kind of like, well, he had long hair. He did have long hair. It was white. I can't remember. I think he had a beard. Not a very big beard. I mean, it wasn't bushy when he was wearing some kind of smock, and it was red. And he had a breastplate on, a silver breastplate. I thought, what's he doing? He's you know, and the God I know, and this is the God I really came to love. I mean, Jesus, I love him, you know. I mean, but God's a warring God. I mean, he wars. He would fight. Like David, you know, and that. But he had a lot of heart. You know what I mean? And I came to love God just by reading. Anyway, so it's kind of spooky to me. Really, I mean, I didn't think I was in trouble or anything. I really didn't do anything wrong. I mean, but see, you have to understand that the childhood that I lived through, it was hard for me to come to terms that someone could actually love me like that. I was, I was always worried I was in trouble about something because just usually I was, and if even if it wasn't, I was getting blamed for it. I'd be that scapegoat. Uh, anyway, so the next day he did come back, and I didn't know. Prior to him coming back, I called her and I said, Ruth, did you get a visit from God last night? She said yes. She thought like it wasn't no big deal. I said, what'd you say? She said, I didn't want to change. I don't want to do it. Oh. Are you stupid? It's like, are you stupid? Have you lost your mind? Do you know that is God of the universe? Do you think if you think about it, there's nothing God wouldn't give you if you knew he had your heart? I know that. I know about God. That much about him. Listen. One thing I know about God is God ain't gonna have you go through all this crap. And there are some blessings, you go through crowns in heaven or something, you know what I mean? And the favor of God, whatnot, I said, who are you? Where you come from, man? Who turns down God? I wouldn't. And to this day, I still won't. I mean, I get mad at some of the things I have to go through and shit, but I'm going to turn God down. I love God. I love God just like he's my father. Because he's really kind of the only real father I've ever had. When it was time for me to raise my own son, I didn't have a whole lot of training on it. I looked at the way God was a father to everybody. And that's kind of the way I looked at it. And that's kind of the way I did it. I looked at it like that. Kids would get a whooping if they did something that was going to hurt them. If they were going to get hurt. Otherwise they didn't get a whooping, but they'd get in trouble. And I was I was having fun, because that's what, what's life about? I mean, we could go and work our asses off, and I did. I worked a lot in my life. But we can't have some fun. We can't be with the people that we love, care about them. What's life for? What's it about? Ain't nothing. It's just work. And, listen, I was a good mechanic. And I built my own business and whatnot. I didn't put that in there. And hell, I made money the first day. Because I had a reputation. The reputation I had was not being the greatest mechanic, but a guy who was honest. And most people don't look at mechanics like we're honest, but when they find the honest mechanic, who knows the shit, they usually stick to them. And so all the business I'd had with this corporation came back to me. You see. Anyway, so then I got to talk to God, and I said, so God, why me? He said, for one thing, I love you. I said, I've been watching you a long time, and I love you. He said, another reason, you've been through a lot. I mean, I've seen your life, and you've been through a lot. But you still always leave your heart open for love, no matter what. You always do that. I said, okay. So he told me, "You, I know that you've been through a lot, and I know that you're the black sheep of the family, and that's one of the reasons why you picked too, because you had to be strong to go through all that, but you're not quite strong enough yet." I said, "What, really?" He goes, I remember him saying, he said, the exact words he said, "The journey that you're fixing to go on is not for the faint of heart. It's going to be tough. And I need to get you strong enough and ready for it, because it's gonna test you. It's gonna try you." All right. Well, I didn't know yet how bad that was going to be. And I'll tell you what, there are many tears I cried on this journey. I remember there were a couple times when I know God was there with me. You know, like I just put my head down in his lap. You know, cried. Sometimes I think that the normal human being could not have gone through that shit. They would have driven crazy. They would have gone nuts. So yeah. Can I say I'm pretty strong? Yeah. But if I hadn't cried that many tears, then I probably would be crazy. What else did he say? Oh, I remember. Well, we had a discussion, and he said, he said, "What do you want? What do you want at the end of this?" I said, "Someone to love me, and someone that would actually love me, and maybe a house, a land, maybe a truck, you know." That's all I care about. And if I had that in life, and then because I'm old, you know, he probably manage that. And I walked with him their ways. It seemed like he was going up a ladder, you know. He said, "Listen to me. Stay close to my son. It's going to get rough down here. So grow food. When you get that land back," he said, grow your food and stuff, because it is going to get pretty rough down here." I said to myself, well, and I've kept that. Everything that he told me to do, I kept it. It's ingrained. It's ingrained in my mind. You know. I mean, there were times I was worried that he was kind of mad at me, and I'll tell you something. One time, I took some shit, and I got pretty fucking high, and I didn't want to go around him like that, I didn't want to disappoint him. I wasn't worried about being in trouble, I just didn't want him to see me all fucked up like that, And he came to me. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I got too high. Didn't want to go around you like that." He said, "Listen to me. I can feel that guilt from way where I'm at. I can feel your guilt. Do you think I don't know what you do? I know what you do. I know you." All right. What do you say that? I figure as much as God, right? And he said, "But listen, that guilt stuff, we need to get past that." He said, "My son died on that cross. those sins are paid for. And if you say that you believe Him, then you keep on believing it, and you get yourself back, get off that guilt thing, and get yourself back to work. I can't use that guilt. So, that's why I tell everybody, listen, if you have given your heart over and believed in Jesus, then you're saved. Believe that. Don't give it back. It was a gift given to you from God. He didn't ask for it back. You're under grace. No, you can't go out there and fuck up all the time and just do it for shit together and fuck everybody. No, you can't do that. No, there's a code that you have to honor what He did for us. But we are humans. And God knows it. And none of us are perfect. Do not let your sins that you do, listen, don't let them put a wall between you and God. It grieves Him, I know it does. It changed me. He was like, what are you doing, I love you, man. You can't just fucking do that. I know you're a human being. I know that you fuck up. I still love you. Doesn't mean I'm gonna fucking goddamn throw you in a pit of hell. How many times do you think I've forgiven you in your life? More than you can count. And I will continue to forgive you on your life. You're doing things. You're doing something for me. Now get to work and do it, And thank you, God, for that. He loves us. Honest. He is doing His thing, and it's all about saving us. That's the real deal. Listen, He could throw all this fucking shit that you're reading. We could get hit with that. He hasn't done it though. Don't turn into a bunch of fucking crazy people and forget God. He's doing this right now because we're going to come back to Him. You are His children. Okay? That's the real deal. That's the plan. And I need you all to be part of this, to get back. Get your kids back. Get everybody that you can get back to the fold. Because if you don't, there's heaven and there's hell, and they are both forever. And it's time. It is time. And I know I'm not giving bullshitting about that. The horns have been blown. And He doesn't want to see us die. He doesn't want to lose anybody. These people that came after me and still doing it, I'm so disappointed. I was here these are my family members, And they just went ape shit stupid. But I promise you this. If it comes between them and God, I'm choosing God. Or anybody on this planet, I'm choosing God. And if He never did anything for me, I'd still do it. I'd still do for God. He created this thing up here. He built it all. Everything in it People think they got this and that. They think all these riches. They don't own any of it. God gives it to them, and He just asks them to steward it. But you don't own shit. And when you leave here, you don't get to take shit with you. The only thing you take with you is the love that was here. That's what you get to take with you. So you better start making those people love you. Because that's all you get to take. Butt naked, straight up to heaven or to hell. That's the reality of it. And we're almost there. But I think that most of us we're going to get there. You ever heard that thing, weigh your feather, a feather in your soul? As long as your soul's as light as a feather, you'll float up. Mine's been weighed already. I passed. But too many people on this planet will not, if they don't get it together and stop this greed and this jealousy and envy and this shit like that. It's got to stop. Now you better stop now, because God sees it. And let me tell you what. The one thing I can tell you is that intent is everything. Intent. The reason why you did something. Why are you doing it? Because I don't like you, I hate you, or I don't want you to do better than me, so I'm going to be jealous, and so I'm going to do everything I can do to ruin your life. Intent. I never look at people like that. And shame on them that do. I mean, shame on them. We are supposed to love God above all. And we are supposed to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. He made me in Jesus' image. I'm telling you, listen, that's the law. That's the rule. And that's the basic rule I try to live by. And it's not hard. It is not hard. It's not hard for parents to teach their kids. Tell them about God. Tell them who God was. Tell them who He is. You see, we've fallen away. We've fallen away to we don't have much to say, much to do about God. But you know what? What it's going to do when you walk up and everybody's heading out and you come up to Jesus and wait a minute, what are you getting on? Hey, Jesus, remember me? I'm saved. Get out of here. I never knew you. I don't know who you are. Because that's the way the world is now. They've just kind of disregarded this guy who loves us, built the planet for us, gave us everything that we needed to live a decent life. And we screwed it up. But He still forgives us. Because He knew we couldn't do it. Trying to get us back to the garden. Now, let's help Him out. Let's help Him get us back to the garden. I love you all. I love mankind, or I wouldn't be sitting here. I don't have to be here. This is your world. It's not mine. I go up there, I get wings. I love God and I love you. And I say that you're worth saving. Or we would have already caught hell. But I told God, I still think that they're worth saving. I do. Because I've seen people do a lot of good things in life. You know? I mean, and I know there's people starving, dying from all kinds of weird shit out there, you know. But we can do something about it. We can fix that. We can do something better than that. I mean, and we are let me tell you, he took it out of the religious people's hands and put it in ours. This community, like the people that read tarot and mystics and whatnot, he put it in our hands. You know why? As I said, these people live every day. They live every day with God in their voice, in their minds. They're talking to God while they're doing their deals. They're talking to a God who gives them the answers of this stuff. And that's what I say I need. And I'm going to call on all of you. I'm the leader of this thing. And I will call on all of you to help me make it happen, help me achieve this thing, and get us over there to the new earth. And help people learn how to love each other. Because I believe with every fiber of my being that we can do it. I mean, they used to nail us to a cross, or they would, burn us at the stake and whatnot. But that's not happening anymore. So, why we've got a lull in the storm? Please help me get our children back home and away from the devil. Father, I pray that you make all the people out there understand how important this is. That I'll be there forever. I love you. And they do too. Amen. To all of you who never met me, I am God's chosen. And many of you I've come to know as people I talk to. I love you all. I do. I think that you are beautiful people. So beautiful. And my hope is in you. And your hope is in me. Good night.